Hey, hello everyone, this is question 11 on the paper from November 2021, paper 2 for Edexcel. Here's a sketch of the line L, okay? The points -6, 0 and 0, 3 are points on the line L. So we've got P is -6, 0 and Q is 0, 3. The point R is such that PQR is in the ratio P to Q to Q to R is 2 to 3. So in other words, the ratio of P to Q to R is in the ratio 2 to 3, okay? And we've got to, for 2 marks, find the exact coordinates of the point R. I personally think this is quite tricky. And the way that I thought of it is this. If this is in the ratio 2 to 3, then to go from P to Q is 2/5 of the length of that line. And to go from Q to R is 3/5 of the length of that line. Now, let's call the whole length of the line from P to R, let's call that X, okay? And what we know is that 2/5 of whatever X is must equal 6, because we go from 0 to 6 in the X. So we can say that 2/5 of that X coordinate there must be 6. So therefore we can times by 5 and divide by 2, and that gives us that X is 15. So therefore the coordinate of R, the X coordinate of R, is -6 add 15, which is 9. So we found out there the X coordinate. Now, let's do the same logic for the Y coordinate. Again, going from 0 to 3 is 2/5 of that whole length there, Y. Okay, so we can now basically say that 2/5 of whatever Y is 3. So if we times by 5 and divide by 2, we get that Y is equal to 7.5. So therefore, because of the fact that P has a Y coordinate of 0, the Y coordinate of R is going to be 0 add 7.5. So therefore, the coordinate of the point R is 9 and 7.5. Personally, I think that's really tricky. Now, part B, it says find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to L and passes through Q. Okay, now this is an idea that's going to be very, very common for those of you who go on to do A-level in the future. So we want to find the equation of this line here that's at 90 degrees to the line L and it goes through the point Q. Now, there are 2 things that you need to find the equation of a line. You need a gradient and you need a point on the line. We've got a point on the line because we've got the point 0, 3. But what we're missing is the gradient of this line. And what we do here is we're going to calculate the gradient of this line L. Because when you have 2 gradients that are perpendicular, they are negative the reciprocal of each other. Because when you multiply the 2 gradients together, the product should be -1. So let's think about the gradient of our line L. What have we got? We've got let's just use the coordinates P and Q. So 3 take away 0 is the change in Y over 0 minus -6, okay? Which is 3 over 6, so that's a half. So the gradient of the line L is a half. So we flip the fraction, take its reciprocal and change the sign. So the gradient, therefore, of our line here, the normal, the one that's 90 degrees, is going to be -2. So now we write down y equals mx plus c, and we sub in the point 0, 3 and have a gradient of -2. And that's going to help us find the equation for this line. So the point 3, 0 has a y value of 3 and x value of 0. So subbing into y equals mx plus c together with our gradient of -2 gives us that c is 3. So that means that the equation of the line that we're after is y is equal to -2x add 3. And that is question 11 done, which I think is quite a tricky question there. Next one. Oh, something nice. Here we go. Question 12, expand this triple bracket. Now, what I like to do for expanding triple brackets is I like to, first of all, pick the first 2 and expand them. And you can just do that in any way you like. So I've done that one times that one gives that one. That one times that one gives that one. That one times that one gives that one. And that one times that one gives that one. And when I collect like terms, I have 3x squared plus 2 minus 6 is -4. And then minus 4x and then -4. What I like to do then, and this is just a good way of organizing it, you don't have to do it this way, but I think it's quite good, is I now write that as my one side of my grid. And then the final bracket that I haven't used yet, I write as the other side of my grid. And then I just work out what all of the individual elements are. So we're going to go 2x times 3x squared is 6x cubed. 2x times minus 4x is minus 8x squared. 2x times minus 4 is minus 8x. 3 times 3x squared is 9x squared. 3 times minus 4 is minus 12x. And then plus 3 times minus 4 is minus 12. Then when we collect like terms, we get 6x cubed, and then we get 9x squared plus 8x squared, which goes to just x squared. And then we have minus 12 minus 8, which goes to minus 20, and then we have minus 12. And so that's how I would expand a triple bracket in a question like that. Right, let's have a look at this next question. So the next question, it says, in a school, there are 16 teachers, 220 students, and there are 120 are girls and 100 are boys. One teacher, one girl, and one boy are going to be chosen at random to represent the school. Work out the number of different ways there are to choose one teacher, one girl, and one boy. Well, first of all, there are 16 ways to pick a teacher because there are 16 teachers. And there are 120 girls that could be picked. And there are 100 boys that could be picked. And in probability or combination kind of questions like this, when you hear that word and, it means that we multiply. So we've got 16 possibilities for the teachers and 120 possibilities for the girls and 120 possibilities for the boys. So giving us 192,000 potential different combinations. Okay. Right, what have we got here for this next one? Question 14. So scroll down a little bit. Question 14, there it is. Right, let's have a look and see what we've got. A, B, C, and D are 4 points on a circle. That's good. So we've got a cyclic quadrilateral. And we've got a line, SBT, which is a tangent to the circle, and an angle ABD of 20 degrees. The size of angle BAD to the ratio of the size of the angle BCD is in the ratio 3:1. Find the size of angle SBA. Okay, so let's have a look at this. What does it mean, this ratio 3:1? Let's see what they're talking about with those two ratios, okay? So they're saying that BAD, so this angle BAD, that's that one there, and the ratio BCD are in the ratio 3:1. In other words, this one is 3 times this one. Now, we do not know at the moment what that is, so we'll call that x, and we'll say that this one up here is 3x. Okay, that's fine. Right, what else do we know? Let's have a look and see what else we know now. What do we know? We've got to use the alternate segment theorem. So we know that angle SBD, where is SBD? Angle SBD. So this whole angle here, SBD there, that whole angle there has to equal the angle BCD, equals this angle here. So this whole angle here is equal to this angle here. The only thing is, at the moment, we don't know what that angle is. Right, so what else do we know? Let's think about this. We do know that the opposite sides of a cyclic quadrilateral have to add up to make 180 degrees. Okay, so we know that 3x add x, this one and this one add together to make 180. So we've got here that 3x add x equals 180. So therefore 4x is 180, so x is 45. So we now know that x is equal to 45, which is great, because what that's telling us then is that this whole angle here is 45. And we know that this angle here, we're told, is 20. So that means that this little angle here must be 25. Okay, so that angle there must be 25. And we've got to try and find the angle, what does it say? Find the size for the angle SBA. SBA is therefore 25. We found it out. That one there must be 25. And that is our answer. So let's just review the steps. First of all, we were told that this angle and the ratio 3:1. So with that's x, that's 3x. We also discovered that in a cyclic quadrilateral, those two angles add together to make 180. So that enables us to work out what x was, because we had 3x add x was 180. So therefore 4x was 180, so x was 45. Once we knew that x was 45, we know that this angle x is the same as this whole angle here from the alternate segment theorem. So that whole angle there is the same as that angle there, and we now know that that's 45. So this little angle that we want, angle SBA, must be 45, the whole angle, take away 20. So therefore it is 25. And that is the answer to that question. Right, I hope that you found that helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.